All right, guys, what's up? How's everybody doing? Today I'm gonna go over the basics of the program that I'm currently doing, which is like the kind of bastardized, modified, conjugate strongman soup of training that I've been posting the last couple weeks. Like I said on the first training video, it's based off of a lot of it is based off of Brian Alzru's Dark Horse program, which you can find. I'll put a link to that as well. Some cool concepts in there, and I've followed his programs a couple times with good results. Just at this point, that's a 4-day-a-week program, and I can't spend 4 days a week in the gym. I'm only at 3 days, so I had to kind of modify things, but I wanted to keep some of the same principles. So let's get into a little bit of overview, and then I'll go into like the specifics of the program. So like I said, 3 days a week. I'm doing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday right now. Whatever 3 days work for you. I would suggest putting a day in between your lifting days. So don't do consecutive days if you can help it. If you have to do consecutive days, I wouldn't do more than 2 in a row. So I wouldn't do all 3 days in a row. You're just not going to get the most out of your training that you can. So because I'm doing 4 main lifts, I'm actually doing alternate weeks. So as you guys saw in my week 1 video, I was focused on overhead press and deadlift variation. So Tuesday was my overhead press day. Thursday was my deadlift variation. And then week 2 was bench and squat. So same thing, bench was on Tuesday, squat on Thursday. I'm still doing, as you'll see, I'm still doing hinging and squatting on the days that I'm not doing max effort. My God, my eyes. Max effort stuff. So I'm still getting all of that work in, just for me to try to squat and bench on the same day, squat and deadlift heavy in the same day is just too taxing physically and just too time consuming as well, set up and breakdown and stuff. I only have a limited amount of time to be at the gym, so I need to be as efficient as possible. So the other main thing, we're rotating max effort stuff. So we're going to rotate between a 5 rep max, 3 rep max, and a 1 rep max. Okay. And you'll see kind of how I set that up as like a little grid. So you're not doing like max squat, max deadlift, like you're not doing a heavy single every week for every exercise. It kind of rotates through. And I'm also using variations of a lift. So I'm using variations that I'm not currently good at. So to build up for the more conventional lift. So like right now I'm using the cambered bar for overhead press, which sucks balls. If you ever used it for overhead press before, it's probably the worst variation there is. I'm doing the sumo deadlifts because I've just never really concentrated on those before, and I definitely need a lot more strength in my lockout. I usually can pull conventional to the knee, and that's where I die. A lot of people are the same way, so I would suggest trying something, whether it's sumo or something else. For me, sumo is what I'm using right now. For the bench, I'm doing, we have a bar that at Lightning we call a muffler bar. It's a bar with a big metal thing in the center, kind of like, it's almost like a 2-board or 3-board press. So same idea. And then squat, I'm using the safety squat bar. So like I said, variations for the max effort stuff. And then giant sets. So my assistance stuff is a giant set. So basically with the max effort work, I'm working up to, like I said, a 5, 3, or 1. And then I'm taking 80% of that. I'm doing 3 giant sets with that same movement. So whatever I was doing for overhead, deadlift, bench, squat, same movement. But I'm adding in an antagonist and or explosive. And then a couple of, an ab, and then something moving. In giant set format. And then the first set of that is max reps, which we'll get into as well later. And then after the giant sets, I go into the dynamic work. So I'm doing speed work with the opposite of the max effort work that I'm doing. That might sound a little confusing, but for my overhead press days where I'm doing a max effort overhead press, I'll be doing speed work on the bench. Okay, that makes sense. And then same thing with deadlift. Max effort deadlift would be speed work on the squat, and then vice versa. Max effort bench would be overhead speed work. Max effort squats would be dynamic speed work with the deadlift. For me personally right now, I'm using chains on a deadlift and a squat, and I'm using bands on overhead and the bench. Basically, it's just easier to set up the bands on the overhead and the bench than using chains. And I've never done speed work with chains on squat or deadlift, so I figured, why the hell not? Try it out. Just a different stimulus, and hopefully get a little bit out of it as well. And then the last kind of overview point on this is I'm still doing my strongman Saturdays. I'm not doing anything heavy. Basically, I'm keeping all my strongman movements within the 65 to 85 at the most percentage range, especially since I'm doing a lot of max effort work during the week. I don't want to go too crazy on a Saturday, but I still want to do my strongman stuff. So I'm taking the time a little bit to kind of not rebuild, but kind of retool my overhead pressing. Especially on the log, I've noticed my technique has kind of gotten a little sloppy over the last couple of years or so. So I'm kind of redoing that, and then just working on more speed work. So all my moving events are going to be speed oriented, and then a lot more hypertrophy volume style work for carries and stones and things like that. So so that's kind of the overview, guys. Now I'll get into the more specifics, like how I set up the days and how I set up each week and all that stuff, so you guys can see that. All right, so I'll be right back with a new board. Well, this is what I deal with in between cleaning the board off. This one just wants to sit in my chair. Bailey, what are you doing? Say hi. Say hi. Hello. It's okay because she's pretty. So, all right, guys. So right now I'm just gonna give you kind of a sample day, and then in the next time I do this board, I'll do like the whole layout of the program, just to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. So this is an actual day that I did. This was the first day of the first week. So this is my week A. Like I said, week A is overhead and deadlift. So this is just the overhead day. So on the alternating week, this would be bench, okay, if that makes sense. So I'm working up to 1 rep max. I did that on the first week. I've been making sure I'm getting it done within 30 minutes, just because I have, like I said, I have a time crunch. So work up to that 1 rep max, whatever it is, and then I'm taking 80% of that, okay. So whatever number I work up to here, which I think last week was like 285. For one, I'm taking 80% of that number and using it for my giant sets. Okay, that makes sense. 80% is going to be heavy enough that it's, you're getting a good work out of it, but not so heavy that you're destroying yourself on the assistance work. And then, like I said, the giant set consists of the press, opposite movement. So pull downs would be a vertical pull. And then moving for me would be overhead yoke carry. I've been using those a lot lately. They really help with lockout and overhead. And then some kind of ab work, rotation of my ball slams. I'm resting about 90 seconds to 2 minutes or so, depending. I usually rest a little bit longer on the first one because the first set of this is going to be as many reps as possible. Okay? Strongman has a lot of events that are as many reps as possible, so getting used to that and doing it while you're somewhat fresh is probably a good idea. And then the last two rounds would be 4 reps of that 80% of your 1 rep max. Okay, might be a little confusing, but you'll see as we lay it out. It's very simple to do. So like I said, 90 seconds to 2 minutes rest or so, and then I'm going through this for 3 rounds. Okay, pretty straightforward. You're able to get a lot of work in a short amount of time, which is what I need personally, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have time constraints as far as either not wanting to be at the gym for 3 or 4 hours or having a life outside of the gym, which is always a good thing. So after that, I go right into my speed bench. So these are kind of every minute on the minute-ish. It takes me a while to set up for a bench, so basically I wait like 10-15 seconds and then start my setup. 10 sets of 3 at 50%. So my 50% I'm using including the band tension. So I'm not putting 50% of my max on there and then adding the bands as well. I want to make sure that this is fast and there's no slowdown at the top or anything because of the bands. So the bands that I use, I think, are around 90 pounds or so at the top. So I'm kind of taking 50% of my bench max and then subtracting whatever it would be for the additional weight of the bands, and then using that bar weight with the bands that I'm using. Basically, I'm using just the doubled minis from Elite FTS, the red ones. So that is, 10 minutes, 12 minutes of work at the most. So another quick thing, and then I do my assistance work in giant sets as well. At this point, if you guys get to your speed work and you're absolutely shot after that and you don't feel like the assistance is going to do anything for you, you can skip it. It's not, this little circuit here is not what's going to get you strong and in shape. The rest of the main work is going to do that for you. This, I'm usually still pretty good after speed bench or speed work, so I always add in something. There's been a couple times where I kind of cut that out or did a little bit less, but like I said, use your judgment on that. This is going to be kind of a little bit of self-regulating. Any kind of like conjugate style training that you do, you're going to have to really listen to your body as far as, know when to push and know when to kind of back off a little bit. So for me, since I have access to a lot of stuff over at Lightning, hammer strength rows, seated Smith machine press, and face pulls. Just 3 sets of 10 to 12 on each. Run through that giant set format, same thing. I take a lot less rest on these, maybe 30 seconds rest in between cycles or sets, whatever. And then that's it, done. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You got your max after work, you got some hypertrophy work in the center there, some volume, speed work, and then some extra stuff if you need it and or feel like you're up to it. So next I'm going to go into kind of the overall breakdown of how the rep maxes rotate, percentages, stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. I'll be right back. Bailey, come on. Come on, honey. Get down. Get down. Good girl. Okay. All right, so that's Bailey, guys, in case you were curious. Girl, stop. Hey. All right, back to the video. Hopefully, no more cat interludes. Okay, so here we go. Here's your layout for your max effort work. Obviously, with this being alternating weeks, if you were doing 4 days a week and you were able to do all the lifts in one week, you'd be doing a 3 week cycle. Obviously with them split up, that's 6 weeks. So I would suggest after the 6 weeks, kind of assess for yourself if the variation that you're using is still working for you. If it is, continue it. I wouldn't continue it for more than 2 cycles, so more than like 12. So basically it's 6 weeks per lift. It's not 12 weeks because you're alternating weeks. So I would after 2 cycles, I would definitely change it regardless of what you think is working for you or not, just to get a different stimulus. But definitely take a look at it after your first run through and see if you think that lift is still working for you. So like I said, week 1, overhead, 1 rep max, deadlift 3 rep max. Week 2, bench 3 rep max, squat 5 rep max. Week 3, overhead 3 rep max, deadlift 5 rep max. 4, you so on and so forth. You can read that, right? So like I said, you're never doing 2 heavy singles per week, and there's enough space in between your heavy, say a deadlift like this week here, between 4 and 5. You got a full week to recover for that workout as well. So you should set you up pretty well for being able to put your max effort into those rep maxes. And then, like I said, so dynamic work is a 4-week wave. So 50, 55, 60, 65, and then add weight, start over. For your upper body stuff, for overhead and bench, I would add somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds. Bailey. And for your lower body work, somewhere between 10, 15, 20 if you're feeling really, really strong with it. So these are so that's your dynamic effort work. Very straightforward. Same rep and set scheme. You're just bumping your percentages up week after week and then starting over. Make sure you're using the same band tension and or chains, whatever you're using. If you're not using any of that, that's okay too. Speed work will still work. It will work better probably if you use bands or chains. But if you don't have access to that, don't freak out too much. You can still do the speed work without the accommodating resistance. Just make sure all these weeks, the percentage that you're going up is just bar weight. You're using the same bands and chains that you would be using the whole time. Okay, so getting into my strongman days. So this is kind of how I'm setting it up. My first week, so the week that I do overhead and deadlift, I'll be doing log clean and press, log rows, yoke, and then some kind of distance front carry. So whether that be a sandbag, a keg, Husafeld stone, something where I'm going not necessarily max distance, but you know, a good distance, and doing multiple sets with that. This is something that I don't train as much as I should because they suck. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the same boat as well. And then, so on the week that I do bench and squat, my strongman will be axle clean and press, axle rows, and then farmers and stones. So the bench and the squat day, I'm not doing as much hinging on those days, so that's a good time to put in farmers and stones. And then on the deadlift week, more yoke because I'm not squatting heavy. That's kind of how I was thinking setting it up. And like I said, these days are going to be in the 60 to 85, somewhere in the 65 to 85% range at the most. I'm more focused on technique and getting volume in, technique and volume on these 2 days, rather than pushing my weights on everything. That's what all the max effort work during the week is for. Okay, this is just to keep me fresh on strongman stuff, work on things that I need to work on, and just have fun because I love doing the strongman shit. So I just realized that I forgot to write down one thing for you guys, so let me pause it real quick and I'll write it down and I'll come right back. All right, guys, so this is the part that I forgot here. So this is your giant set work, percentage-wise and rep-wise. So on the days that you work up to a 1 rep max, regardless of what the exercise is, once you get that number, you're going to take 80%. You're going to do 3 sets. First one is going to be as many reps as possible. Okay, and then the next 2 are going to be 4 reps. Okay, so if you get to this work and your AMRAP set feels really crappy, and you get at least this number, if you can't get more. These are the minimum numbers that you're shooting for each rep max. So that would be your total volume for those. So even if you get 4, 4, 4, 4, that's fine. Okay. Obviously, I'd like you to get a little bit more for this. Shoot for. I would have a specific number in mind to shoot for that, so that you have something, a goal for that set. Whether it's for like 6 reps, 5 reps, whatever you feel, based on that weight and based on the day and how the rest of your training has gone. So when you work up to your 3 rep max, you're going to take the same 80%, AMRAP 6.6, 5 rep max 80%, AMRAP 8.8. And like I said, these are minimum numbers. So if your AMRAP, as long as you get the 8 on there, but try to push it as far as you can. All right, guys. So that's it. Like I said, pretty straightforward. You will have to kind of be aware of how you're feeling during this program. This is probably more of a, not necessarily advanced, but more of an intermediate style kind of program. Like you have to have some kind of knowledge about, number one, where your weak points are. So what max effort variations are going to work best for you, and then also kind of self-regulate yourself as well, because a 5 rep max, there's not a certain percentage on that. So you need to kind of be aware of what you're feeling during that day. If you're feeling really good, push your numbers. If you're not, just hit something that's a good effort, but it's not going to kill you for the rest of the work, because you don't want to just go in, do your rep max, and then go home or hurt yourself or anything like that. So like I said, this is kind of more of an intermediate program. You should get good results. It's a good way to get all your max effort work in and still do like a separate strongman day, which is kind of what I like to do. So that's why I set it up that way. You should be able to get in and out of the gym pretty quickly. You're working your max effort work. You're getting some volume work in, some hypertrophy work. Hypertrophy, whatever, either way. Some speed work, and then assistant stuff. And you're still doing strongman as well, if that's something you're interested in. All right, so that's all I got for you today, guys. Please like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And let me know what you think of the video. If you guys try the program, let me know what kind of results you get from it as well. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks. See ya.